A lot of people have been wondering where I've been or how I've been doing, and I felt like it was important for me to talk about all of this because it's not like I said, hey guys, I'm going on vacation, because I sure as hell wasn't on vacation. Now, I don't want people to feel bad for me, but I don't want to pretend like I was gone for no reason and just get back into making videos. You don't need to empathize, but you can listen. So as you guys know, I typically do videos on some pretty heavy topics, which is part of the reason why they take so long, not just because of the amount of work, but the subject matter can take a toll on me. And of course, once they're released, it doesn't help when people get all salty or start being hateful, but I'm not saying this for sympathy or that was part of any sort of reason why I was away. That is something that I'm used to, it's part of the territory. I've been doing this for a while, I get that. Now, what I wasn't ready for is the new territory that I stepped into late last year and then kind of ongoing. It all started after I made the decision to participate in the Onision documentary, of course. This documentary had a pretty bad reputation before being filmed, so I knew that stepping into this would be a controversial decision in itself. But I was assured that things would be done right and everything would be okie dokie. But even still, considering the reputation, I wanted to be the one to tell people, right? I didn't want people to find out any other way. In fact, that's one of the agreements that I had with the producer, that I would be the one to tell people that I was on the show, don't put me in any marketing, etc. And then they had this sort of marketing idea of sending an early screening of the first episode of the documentary to a handful of YouTubers and I don't know who else, which would have been nice to know ahead of time, because that was another thing that I thought we agreed on too with the producer. Keep me in the know if there are going to be some major moves that are going to happen. And this was a big move because shortly after this happened, there were leaked screenshots that showed that I was in the documentary. So when people came across the screenshots and saw that I was in the documentary, some people were confused, others disappointed, and some even hostile. So it was a lot for me to handle all at once because, in an ideal scenario, I would be the one telling people, hey, so I'm going to be in this documentary, don't worry, it's going to be like this, X, Y, and Z, right? But instead, that was taken away from me, so I had to do damage control. Now, bear in mind, at this point, I had seen episode 1, so I was comfortable reassuring people that, hey, don't worry, it doesn't step on anybody's toes. It is just as they told me. It's not going to disrespect people's stories that didn't want to be told in the documentary. So I said all this in my live stream, and I talked about how I had phone calls, text messages, emails, and it's all going to be okie dokie. And then episode 2 came around and it wasn't okie dokie. I felt dumb and betrayed as I was not kept in the loop and was essentially led to believe a lie that I regurgitated to my audiences, and also some of the people that were concerned with the story. I lied to them because I was lied to it. It was just I felt and looked stupid. The lie, of course, being that the documentary wouldn't tell the stories of some girls that didn't want their stories told. But before the show even aired, my Twitter was hacked on New Year's Eve. Not Amy hacked, I was hacked for real, and I could not gain access to my account. This person was just taunting me, telling people my password, sharing my DMs on my timeline, retweeting inappropriate things. It was super stressful and annoying because no matter how many people reported my account that it was hacked, nothing happened. Their support is practically non-existent. I was locked out of my account for nearly 3 days, and it probably would have been longer if it wasn't for John Swan helping me get in touch with a Twitter employee. So, thanks, John Swan. I was extremely grateful to have gotten my Twitter back with relatively minimal damage, at the time. And then, episode 3 of the documentary aired. Just when you think the shit can't get worse, man. In this episode, Chris Hansen was given the chance to directly respond to something that I said, with the editing of it all put together to make me look foolish. I was shown an early cut of the episode a day before, and after viewing it, I was in shock and cried for hours on the floor. I couldn't believe that after being shat on by people left and right, and me telling them, guys, don't worry, it's not gonna be like that. The producer just stood by and watched me tell people that, and it turns out that it was like that. How dumb and deceived did I feel, right? No matter how good I vet them, they still deceived me, and they didn't even prepare me for the blow. They just let me take that. And not only that, they wanted me to talk about Chris Hansen's involvement and why he's been so dishonest throughout this whole thing. And sure, they played a few snippets, but the weird part about it all is that they allowed him to respond to me. What? They didn't give me any clips from his interviews to respond to. When I first saw this, it really hit me because they also had the journalist right before saying that, yeah, you see all these YouTubers making money off of these stories. And it's why is money the laziest attack for these people? And it's so hypocritical to say in a freaking documentary on Discovery Plus with all these ads, right? That's pitched by Chris Hansen. And here's the difference too. YouTubers are, at least me and other ones, right? Some people, sure, there are YouTubers that do it just for money, okay? Some have even admitted it. But the difference between someone like me and someone like Chris Hansen is that there is some sort of respect, okay? unlike this fucking documentary. But also the idea that people view Chris Hansen as a reputable person because they don't know any better and they're watching this without knowing much of the story. It's like that started echoing in my head. This felt extremely humiliating to the core. The only YouTuber who agreed to participate, and they twisted the knife. The humiliation echoed in my head and continued ringing louder on social media, with viewers and some creators taking a dump on me. I was receiving lots of harassment and criticism and pressure to respond, but I honestly didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't mentally prepared. I was just in the drain. But I ended up deciding to fire up a live stream, and I just started up immediately crying. Then shortly after, I read some chats of people discrediting me and kind of trolling me, so I kind of got triggered and called them brain dead, which I feel bad for, because I was just I was literally triggered. I was really emotional. I kept like snapping a few times. I snapped, and then I cried a few times also throughout that live stream, which was quite long. And I just was not in a good headspace. I didn't have no intention of offending anybody. Like, I felt like a meteor just crashing down. And it was that night that I decided I needed to take a social media break, which, initially I thought, 2 weeks should be good. Obviously that was a lot longer than 2 weeks. Shortly after, my hacker reappears. But as it turns out, he's not my actual hacker, or at least not the main one, just somebody that asked the hacker for my login so he could also hack in. Or so he says. This guy screen recorded around 9 private conversations that I've had with people. Completely casual, day-to-day conversations. And how do I know it's 9? Because he shared them with people. Like they've told me or they've posted on their videos, etc. So he very well could have recorded more. This feels extremely violating, It feels like somebody's just following me around and like recording day-to-day conversations and then later revealing that, hey, look what I have. I've been watching you. Like, what the hell? Like, that's non-consensual on neither me or the other person. Like, what is the motive, right? And again, it was because I was being crucified that some streamers thought it was okay to like nitpick random things and try to portray the worst narratives. One of the streamers did apologize to me though, and he told me that he was regretful about the stream because it kind of felt weird as a whole, and I'm really grateful for that. So cheers to you, Crow of Judgment. I'm a forgiving guy. But the other 2 streamers I'm not gonna even mention, and one in specific, of course, being the one that has gotten stuck on me since January, which we'll get into that. There was also a Twitter account called Edwin Hacked Himself that was literally screen recording my Discord server, like just general chats of people talking in there. So that also felt violating, because not only did I feel like I had disappointed people that I had conversations with in my private DMs on Twitter, but now I felt like I couldn't even like interact with my fans. I can't even like talk. Like, I don't want to participate in my Discord. I was like, should I shut this down? Because somebody's so disgusting to literally just scroll through there were some like hour-long recordings on Periscope on that Twitter account. I was like, what? Who does this? It was so creepy. And then that account also started interacting with the hacker, the one that was giving, the creator my DMs and stuff. I eventually talked to the person that hacked into my account, and according to him, he wasn't the original hacker, which I do believe because the IPs are different locations and several other factors. However, I do believe that this second person that hacked into my account was the one that was doing all these malicious like screen recordings and everything and giving them out to people. But of course, he would go on to deny it all despite giving me so many clues. At one point, Regina, someone who I interviewed for a video 2 years ago, received an email from someone posing as Nicholas Diorio asking for permission to view the Google Drive that had their footage from the interview. It was obvious to me that they got the Google Drive link from my DMs with Regina, since Regina sent me the link via DMs on Twitter. And they actually tried to access the Google Drive not once, but twice. Both times posing as Nick, but only once did they try to spoof his email. The other email name appeared very familiar. After I told Nick about the impersonator, who revealed himself to be called Darcy, Nick decided to just tweet out the name, and then Darcy put out the tweet on his header as some sort of like badge of honor. Further verifying his identity as a suspected hacker, he decided to send Nick this really bizarre email that even included his own phone number and other screen names that he's gone by. That's also when he began the narrative that he's been harassed for almost 6 years. Okay, so keep that in mind, because that's also very important. He basically was saying that somebody else continuously goes under his usernames, multiple of his usernames, for multiple years and pretends to be him and harasses people. That is his alibi, okay? Yeah, this is the weird part of the video. The Twitter and email allowed me to further connect the dots on who this person was, and also that he had signed up to my Patreon on 2 different emails, and actually just before, like a few days ago, on a 3rd email. why? Like, I blocked him on every single one. I can't block him from signing up to my YouTube channel memberships, or at least I don't know how to, but he signed up on there too, even though he's been explicitly hateful now. There were a lot of factors pointing towards Darcy, that he was the one acting maliciously towards me and sending out my private DMs to people, but the smoking gun was the TikTok notifications. That's right, when he was screen recording my private conversations with people, he got a notification that Nicholas Diorio's dad uploaded a new TikTok. Bingo. I got you, motherfucker. Another really strong pointer towards him is the way he types. No matter how many usernames he makes, I can always recognize, oh, there's Darcy. You know, because this guy recycles more usernames than Anonymous Gene, which is funny because they've actually interacted together and he seemed to know who Darcy was. Super Troll said hi. One time he even defended himself against Nicholas Diorio by pretending to be somebody else. Like, Nick was replying to him, and then he came with an alt, pretending to be someone else. So how did I end up talking to this person? Well, that's just it. They ended up wanting to talk to me. They signed up for the Patreon perk to have a phone call with me, which is really awkward, but I was like, okay, let me just, you know, let's put that 99.9% to 100. All right, let's see if I can do it. I didn't know how the call would go, and I was quite nervous, to be honest, but I figured there would be pushback, and of course, he did deny mostly everything, despite me providing numerous instances of his slip-ups. He insisted that throughout years, somebody would go into his account and then leave and then come back and then post bad stuff, and it was never him.
When I was hacked, my account had, like, well, not hacked, when people were in my account that I wasn't aware of, they changed my name. I didn't.
He did, however, admit to one thing. This is when he admitted to hacking into my account. He said that he posed as a hater to the person that originally hacked into my account, and that's how they gave them my login information. God, if I knew it was that easy. Something funny that he also mentioned was that when he was in my account, you know, looking at my DMs, he said that he saw them delete themselves, which is funny because that's not something that happens. But funny enough, in one of his screen recordings, you see DMs being deleted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if two people are logged into the same account on Twitter and like one of them starts deleting DMs, I'm pretty sure the other person isn't gonna suddenly see them being deleted, like, you know, when you swipe it. I don't think that's how it works. Like, he really went out of his way to use that as his alibi without realizing it's actually just more damning towards him. I could tell this person was a serious pathological liar, which made it all more uncomfortable. Like, his voice would change when you could tell he was lying. Like, it sounded like he was about to barf.
And
right.
I should have, I would.
And when I told him that I strongly believed it was him because of the TikTok, and, you know, they had like old pictures of him and stuff, he suddenly started pretending, oh my gosh, how did they get those pictures? I don't even recognize that username. I never seen it in my life. Like, that's what he literally said. Now, even though he remained with the story that he had been harassed and hacked for years, like someone would pop into his account and harass people, it wasn't him. He was understanding of why I believed it was him. So I said, look, man, since you're understanding, if it's not a big deal, could you possibly send me, like, you know, receipts, some evidence that you've been hacked or harassed, like, you know, something that's been going on, you know, maybe like some sort of login, because I know that when I got hacked, it sent me certain emails. Someone's trying to hack in, or someone hacked in, blah, 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 you know, your password was changed. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And maybe you can even, we can have another call or something. And what happened after the phone call? Well, he did send me some emails, but all they were, there's a login and a new device. That doesn't mean that somebody hacked your account or that your password was changed at all. You know, he sent me like 3 of those. And the biggest slap in the face was on the last one, he signed it as the username of the TikTok that he swore he did not recognize. Who is Jersey Stefan then?
I don't know.
You don't know who Jersey Stefan is?
I don't, unfortunately.
I thought that was someone correlated to you.
I don't know how. I've never heard of them before.
Okay, and then what happened after that? He deleted some of the TikToks, or maybe it wasn't him. Some TikToks randomly started deleting themselves. And he blocked me on Discord. Okay, that sounds like an innocent person. I later realized that this person also had downloaded a lot of the live streams that I offer as a perk on my Patreon and my YouTube channel memberships, and had provided them to this creator, the one I told you got stuck on me since January. We're just gonna call him Dirty, because I don't wanna mention his name. I'm blocking his name from the comments. I don't wanna give him that, like, this is already too much attention from this video, but I feel like I have to address it because literally hours and hours and hours of nearly daily live streams about me, literally pausing, like I've seen him like play videos of mine in 0.25x speed. So it could be like, look at that facial expression. I'm like, are you serious? He's called me every label, every little like negative buzzword you see on Twitter to try to forcefully cancel me for almost 6 months. But anyways, we'll get into that in just a moment. Seeing that my live streams were downloaded just to be reproduced with ill intention to like nitpick random parts of like, 6 to 10 hour live streams that I've done was just so further violating. It made me want to just, okay, I have to disable this perk. I had to apologize to people on my Patreon, like, sorry, and I offered people refunds if they wanted them or whatever. I was completely understanding because I'm already in the dumps mentally, and this person like is literally signing up to my Patreon just to download my stuff and then give it out to this disgusting person who is obsessed with me. I felt like there was nothing I could do about this person because not only are they from Australia, but they also cycle through so many usernames, and it's just like continue to add negative associations to just the idea of coming back to YouTube and being on social media, when this person just constantly harassing me while I'm not even on social media. So how's it gonna be when I'm back, Something else that was going on while I was off social media was people trying to capitalize off of the negative sentiment towards Edwin, trying to make threads about that one band t-shirt that I wore in a picture on Instagram like 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And, I already addressed it last year, and the picture's not even been available for a while. But, people are trying to recycle that to try to cancel me. And honestly, it didn't really affect me. I rolled my eyes at it. The only reason why I found out about it was because I saw Augie RFC and Tipster's videos on it, and like they were standing up for me. And I was like, wow, I was completely unaffected. If anything, I was flattered that they were like being kind towards me in a time when I felt like, just super depressed. So if anything, shout out to Tipster and Augie. You guys are G's. But I did want to mention a message that made me feel uneasy from one of the creators that was at the forefront of this whole like, have you guys seen all this stuff that Edwin's already addressed? Where are my SJWs at? Where are my Karens at? Let's go cancel Edwin. Pathetic. Anyways, let's go through the message. Hello, Mr. Edwin. Hope you've been doing well. Oh, I'm sure he meant it. I was wondering if you would be interested in answering a few questions I had for you as I'm making a fancy video on you. A fancy one? Now, I have no issues with people making videos about me, and I actually think YouTubers should reach out to others before they make videos on them as well. But knowing this guy's agenda after seeing his numerous tweets about me, I think I'm a pass. Not to mention, the rest of the message felt like bait, saying that, hey, you might want to unlink your Facebook from your family and all this stuff. It's like, wait, what? What about my family on Facebook? What do you mean? What do you know? What did someone tell you, right? Like, I felt like I was trying to be baited. So I'm just like, you know what? This kind of energy is disgusting. Like, I'm just gonna fudge all of this. So it just made me want to stay away, disassociate from YouTube even further, and delete my Facebook. I finally listened to Mars Argo. Finally, onto the YouTuber that's been doing me dirty for nearly 6 months now. Now, before I get into this, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to the DHS, Department of Homeboy Security. A small group of people took notice of what was going on with Darcy, and then also the dirty guy, and how they were treating me and everything. So they were helping me keep tabs on them because I sure as hell like couldn't do this alone. And also they were a great support system because I would try to tell people about this streamer that's been doing live streams about me nearly daily, right? Easily 3 dozen live streams and videos. I mean, he privates a lot of them, but like it's so intrusive and gross because all the private stuff he tries to say about me and all the insults and stuff. Now keep in mind, each live stream goes anywhere from 2 to sometimes 6 hours, and he spends a lot of the time calling me names, and not just regular insults. He'll spend a lot of time calling me a racist, misogynist, homophobe, transphobe, ableist. So many ists, I'm probably missing a few. Oh, and every now and then, if I've sinned hard enough, he'll wish violence against me.
I really wish that dude would have socked him in the mouth.
It's seriously obsessive. Out of all my time on YouTube, I've never had someone obsessed with me as much as this guy and just harass me over and over and over again. Like, I've not been active. I've not made a blip online, right? And this guy just can't stop like jerking it to, oh my god, I gotta do another Edwin stream. Well,
he has lied about the supposed abuse that he has experienced in his life.
And like I said, maybe this is new territory. Maybe I have to get used to it, but it's still seriously fucked.
Damn. That is one unfortunate looking motherfucker. That's just the truth. And it don't make no sense when you look at his relatives, his brothers. They're cute. They're normal looking. It doesn't make sense.
And honestly, a complete stranger obsessing over me like this might be easier to ignore if he wasn't violating my privacy, speculating over my sexuality. He streams videos of mine from over a decade ago, which I've taken down, so it's weird that he even has them. But it's funny because the point he's trying to prove is like, look, Edwin's racist because when he was 19 years old, he did a comedy sketch with his Asian friend, and at one point, he pulled his eyes. Oh my god, he hates Asian people. First of all, creepy as hell that you have a video that I took down like years ago from when I was 19. And if you want to say that that makes me a racist, then Jesus Christ, go outside, man. God, must be nice to be white and never experience racism. Ugh.
That is so immature and so disgusting, and it warrants an ass beating.
And are you telling people that it was a comedy skit, parodying another comedy skit from Timothy De La Ghetto, which is still available online? You can go watch it. It's called No Racial. It's about him and Rick saying little racial comments and then saying, hey, it's okay, I said no racial afterwards. Asian friend, black friend, playful banter in 2009. And then my skit was Mexican friend, Asian friend, playful banter in 2009.
No racial. No racial.
Do I really need to ask for forgiveness from the white overlord? Oh my God.
To be quite honest, I view him as being beneath the rest of us.
What the hell does that even mean? It's so weird though. Like I step away, I'm trying to mind my own business, you know, and this motherfucker won't leave me in peace and literally twist everything so forcefully to push a disgusting narrative.
And I think the reason those human qualities have not kicked in is because he does lack them. I believe that this is someone with a inner dialogue that is very similar to Onision's.
As you can tell, this has been bottling up inside of me. You try and tear me down by using all the typical Twitter buzzwords to get people riled up against me, but guess what? You forgot to check your fucking privilege, white boy. How's that for an SJW card, huh? Nothing like white people trying to rule over minorities. Gotta love it.
Edwin is rape cultured.
I mean, seriously, what the fuck? And last but not least, I mean, probably not last and probably not least, but just another thing that sticks out of my mind that is so horrendous that he keeps doing is repeatedly doxing me. Like it's some sort of fun game for him. Back in January, when he had only done about 4 streams on me, I was told that he was doing one, reading out my private DMs, which I had no idea were even, you know, shared with anybody. I was confused as to why somebody would go through someone's conversations, like the entire thing, and just start reading it. Like, it's your business. Now, this was just after my last live stream and after deciding that I needed to take a break, and also right before finding out, this is how I found out that so many of my conversations were shared and given to people. So I go into his stream and sure enough, he's going through my entire conversations like it's a normal thing to do. Just in case Edwin said something questionable, let's pick at it. And if he isn't saying anything questionable, well, let's make it questionable. I didn't know what to do because it felt really uncomfortable and violating to see this happening. And the only thing that I could come up with was, I gotta shut this down. Can I do a privacy claim, you know? And then when I went to the page, it was like, okay, before you do this, talk to the creator. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So I go in his chat and ask him, can you please stop reading my DMs? And immediately he goes off on a speech on how he's doing this for Shiloh and that I should have never messed with her and this and that. And I'm like, what? And like the whole chat is like an agreement, all like, this is cool, man, yeah, keep going, dude. I'm like, so I did what YouTube asked. I asked the creator to stop. He didn't care, so I filed a complaint. Now, of course, that didn't do anything. He let me know that the privacy complaint didn't do anything, which is kind of weird, you know? It's kind of weird that someone can like go through your like hack DMs. Now, of course, like his argument is like, you read DMs all the time on your videos. Okay, there's a difference between like somebody giving consent to read DMs and no party consent. You were just doing it out of vengeance because I had drama with Shiloh last year. So anyways, he sent me a message the next day on Instagram wanting to have a conversation. And, you know, I engaged because at the end of the day, like, I felt like I was at the mercy of people like him because it's like, what does he know? What does he have of mine? You know, like, I felt really powerless. Like, this dude has DMs of mine. Like, at the end of the day, I wanted to find out what else does he have, you know, because it sucks. It sucks being in the dark, like being hacked and then not knowing what was stolen from you. So even though he was being rude, conspiring that I probably hacked myself and just berating me, I felt like I was at his mercy. Like I had to take it. And eventually he was nice, you know? Eventually he turned around and was actually nice to me and treated me like a human. It was really weird. By the end of the conversation, he even said something like, is this the beginning of a best friendship? And I was like, well, I wouldn't take it that far, but you know, we can be civil. And then the next day came around. I'm assuming Dirty came across either Augie or Tipster or both of their videos defending me against people trying to cancel me because he was one of those people trying to cancel me. And then boy, did his tone switch up in the conversation. He was even nastier than before. And again, I want to emphasize that I didn't ask or even know that they were going to make those videos defending me. But if I knew that these videos were going to be the catalyst to Mr. Dirty harassing me incessantly for months to come, can we go back in time? It seems like he can easily justify being so hateful against me as he views me as a cold, calculating monster.
He is that cold, calculating monster.
And also just as bad as Onision.
What we are seeing is what we see in Onision.
Now, you're allowed to have your opinions no matter how stupid they are, but the privacy breaches, bro. Why? During one of his live streams, he decided to show a photo of my girlfriend naked, just covering herself, which feels weird to say out loud because why would you do this, right? Now, this was a photo that was taken from Mina's phone and reposted to the anonymous forum Locale by somebody who's apparently still obsessed with us after like 4 years. I guess it was bound to happen, right? So this dude literally teamed up with Dasha so he could, I guess, help her continue her mission to try and ruin my life.
I said that to him. I'm owning up to that. I told him that I'd ruin his life because I would if he takes a fucking British cunt, I'm sorry, over his best friend. He's absolutely right. I stood there smiling. Some
of you might not be familiar with what happened back in 2017, but this person is essentially the reason why I got into doing the types of videos that I do now, you know? If you're interested and you got a few hours to kill, you can watch my first, I guess, commentary videos on my own, like, drama, you know, that was going on back then, and how I first started getting receipts and, like, talking about these serious issues. She's essentially the reason, because of the shit she put us through. He had already crossed the line in so many ways, but of course it wasn't enough until he teamed up with a person who harassed, stalked, and abused my partner and put both our lives through hell back in 2017.
I don't want to bring my autism into this because then Edwin will 1000% discredit me and be like, you're not autistic. You didn't went to university.
Yeah.
First of all, this is the first time I've heard you say you have autism, and I'm not exactly sure what the relevance is because autism does not equate to bad behavior. Second of all, I think it's funny that you bring up your whole Edwin didn't go to university thing I used to say, because I'll say it again. I don't believe you went to university. I mean, in the time that we lived together, you said that you were writing your thesis, but I never saw you touch a piece of paper or laptop or write anything. Furthermore, you failed to produce something that showed you actually went to university in the first place. So, like, what? It's been years. Can you not show, like, an email or something? Not that I care anymore, I just think it's weird that you continue to lie about having gone to university. Dasha, I already buried you. Why are you poking your head out of the sand? You complain that I've done 20 videos, but I never actually did that many. It's okay, you don't know how to count. And you chose this guy to give you the redemption arc? Really? I guess crazy clicks with crazy, so maybe it makes sense. I mean, this dude literally titled the video that he did with her, Edwin's Generation Survivor Speaks Up. What? Survivor? Survivor of what? When I saw that, I was taken out. I was like, is this real life? I mean, this abuser now gets to call herself the survivor?
It's just accountability. Like, hold yourself to the same fucking standard, dude. You've done a lot of really sketchy shit.
I've done sketchy shit? Don't tell me the sketchy shit I've done is the stuff that your homeboy here is talking about. And you, using the word accountability? Girl, shut the fuck up. Where is it though? Oh, a nice hair, by the way. I noticed that you dyed it red, just like Mina's. And just after Mina dyed her hair red. Wow. I guess we'll just add that to the pile of coincidences.
I mean, at one point, I just made fun of, like, because he always said I was copying her, right?
Yeah.
So I just did it for the lols, so he would make a reaction.
Right, so get this. She made fun of people pointing out how she would continuously copy Mina, you know, by doing similar picture poses, doing her hair similarly, buying the same clothes in some instances, by intentionally copying Mina to get a reaction, even though she complains about the videos. Yeah, no, I think she's showing her true colors right here. She likes the attention.
But yeah, he definitely robbed you of your voice.
Something Mr. Dirty says quite a bit is that I robbed Dasha of her voice. Right, because, you know, I was the one going up against two creators with much larger platforms. Even the first time I spoke up, I was receiving massive amounts of hate. Nobody believed me, you know, but nobody believed anything I was saying. That's why I was the one that was backed into a corner and made those long videos backed up with receipts. Because they were the larger creators and people naturally believed them, right? And nobody took my side, you know, nobody would speak up for me. It's interesting to see Mr. Dirty here trying to rewrite history as if he was there. And also, why are you saying that I'm robbing her of her voice when you're taking down your video with her? Bro, you're robbing her of her voice. Put your video back up. I don't mind if everybody sees how dumb both of y'all look.
Monster!
Does she think that just because it's been a while since I've made a video on her, people forgot? Or she can start fresh? But why bring me into it? You have started fresh. You changed your username like once every 3 months. With so many skeletons in your closet, I guess starting fresh is probably all you know. The only thing you're a survivor of is fucking people over and getting away with it somehow. Cause it ain't just me, Dasha, and you know it. But hey, just say the word and I'll debunk every lie that you spit through your fucking teeth. And don't complain later that, oh my god, he made another video, when you're here fucking perpetuating this bullshit going on this dude's channel that fucking live streams about me nearly every day for 6 months, okay? Whoa, the hypocrisy. I'm sorry for all the swearing. I know it's a little bit more than usual, but man, I gotta say, it feels good to get this out of my system. I mean, people really thought they could kick and kick and kick me while I was down. But it comes to a point where I'm gonna fight back. I mean, many people suggested not making a video about it and don't bring attention to it. But it's like, I know that if someone was going through this, you know, I might consider making a video about their situation. So why should I allow myself to just be defenseless? No, I'm saying fuck these people taking advantage of me and just treating me like I'm garbage. Fuck that. I got sick of this dirty guy streaming about me nearly daily for literally hours, and oftentimes playing videos of mine that, again, I've taken down and are over a decade old. It's creepy as hell, trying to force these messages, right? And a lot of the times he was just sitting back and watching them, just not saying anything. And then I was told that he was reading off a Patreon post that I had just made a day prior. That was it for me. No, after everything else that I just listed, this dude has no bounds, no awareness of like harassment. Like he's not gonna stop. And as unsettling as it is to have to accept that he likely won't stop being as creepy as he is, because seriously, what will he do next? I can at least stop him from watching videos of mine in their entirety and not even speak for like 30 to 40 to sometimes more than a minute at a time. Like he just has videos of mine where he's just playing and not even commenting, just like, and then like after a minute he'll pause and say like some nasty stuff.
You are just like Greg. You emulate your idea of what human emotions look like.
Like, what does that even mean? So I filed some copyright claims and they actually went through. And shortly after, Mr. Dirty sent me this long novel of an email and he called it Fair Use. Also, some apologies. What happened, Mr. Dirty? Do you not feel so big anymore? Am I no longer beneath you? Throughout his email, he would insist that what he was doing was fair use. Oh, is that so? Well, if that's the case, why don't you just dispute the claims? I mean, if it's really fair use, YouTube will review the claims and decide whether it's fair use or not, and they will give you your video back if you're being truthful. But let's go over some of the things that stand out from his email, because much of it is just full of BS accusations that he repeats throughout his live streams and passes on as facts. Me reacting to a clip from your live stream in which you outed Mina while she said that she didn't want to discuss it live, that was also fair use. First of all, I didn't claim that part of your video. You can go double check. Second of all, I didn't out my girlfriend. He's referring to a part of a live stream I did a while ago where I was buzzing and I was like, Mina, remember when you thought you were a lesbian? Like I said that to her and she had just woken up, so she's like, oh my god, I don't want to talk about this right now. I was like, oh, okay, my bad, you know? That was it. My girlfriend is not a lesbian. What the hell? Like, he's literally trying to tell his audience that I'm dating a lesbian. No. Like, both me and my girlfriend are open with our sexuality. That does not make us one or the other. But this dude can't stop obsessing over both of our sexualities and making it like black and white. Like, I am the most heterosexual person and she is, I guess, is a hyper lesbian? Oh, it's so uncomfortable. He continued on saying, you're aware of this though, and to be quite honest, I think this is simply you using YouTube's faulty system to punish me for doing commentary on you. Oh yes, this is me punishing you through YouTube's faulty system. Again, this is a guy that says that I am a fake victim, that I always play victim. Bloody fucking blah. And look who's crying now. Mr. I harassed Edwin for the entirety of 2021. If YouTube's system is truly faulty, it's because they're allowing you to continue your targeted harassment towards me, not because they're allowing me to rightfully claim content that is mine. A year and a half ago, Poppy claimed one of my videos. I disputed the claim because I was using fair use. And what do you know? I got my video back. So if you actually know how to use fair use and you're being truthful about your definition of fair use, he's not, then you should get your videos back. But watching videos in their entirety, bro, that's not how it works. To be honest with you, I'm tired of discussing you. I really am. You literally said this before, and then you continued for months, and then there was also a point where you wanted to apologize to me, like you reached out to Repzilla to try to talk to me. And then of course you changed your mind and continued to live stream about me incessantly. And I would love to drop the topic, but dropping the topic does not include removing the content I've done on you because it was completely legitimate content to make. That being said, I wanted to once again let you know that I am open to conversation and discussing with you, not someone representing you, not a moderator for your channel or whatever, but with you. For the record, I don't have anybody representing me, But even if I did, they also don't deserve you. I also personally believe you were dishonest in several instances in your attempt to demonize and vilify Dasha and Seer, and it just wasn't cool. Practically everything I have said about the situation has receipts. The few things that I have messed up on, I have already addressed. I mean, these people had to live with that for years now, man. Wow, I didn't know this guy was such an advocate for abusive behavior. Jeez. I mean, yeah, Dasha did make some posts anonymously to Locale about you guys following your misrepresentation of what factually took place. Are you guys listening to this? You want to know something really ironic? This guy's header on Twitter is the definition of gaslighting. And here he's telling me that she was justified in anonymously talking shit and doxing my girlfriend and posting like private photos of her and all this stuff. She was completely justified because of my misrepresentation of what factually took place. You know, he's saying that I provoked her and that he can't hold it against her. This guy wasn't even around when this all was unfolding in real time. Have you actually watched my videos and paid attention? What kind of heroin is Dasha putting into your veins that you're so into defending her? Having said all of this junk, I would love to have an actual conversation with you on StreamYards, a private conversation that is not aired publicly by either party, but a conversation that each of us record. Okay, so not only does he want to have a conversation with me, but he wants to make sure it's recorded privately. What? Yeah, last time I talked to this dude in DMs, he ended up going over the entire conversation in his live stream, and he's expecting me to trust him on a video recorded conversation? For what? I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you ever mentioning my name. But of course, that's never gonna happen because you're obsessed with me. I also admit that when you began filing, in my personal opinion, fraudulent complaints against me with YouTube, I felt as if you were simply being allowed to use YouTube's faulty filing system against me for simply doing commentary on you. This timeline doesn't make sense because the copyright claims were literally just last week, and you've been harassing me since January. Now, if you're referring to the privacy complaint that I filed back in January that you said didn't even go through, then okay, that thing fueled you to continue harassing me incessantly? Even though in the DMs that we had, you seemed to acknowledge that it was wrong to read private DMs, to have thousands of people be told that I'm lying about the content I'm creating when I have receipts wasn't a good feeling. Thousands of people? And I took that each and every time as a challenge to once again prove that I was being honest with my opinions. First of all, thousands of people told you that you were wrong? Thousands? Wow. I'm sorry I allowed those people, such as Tipster and Diorio, to goad me into further discussion of you. Right, so while I don't believe it was thousands of people, it does seem like every single time someone dared to speak in my favor, he used that as an excuse to further berate me. And here he's finally admitting it, so hey, good on you for that part. That is the only good point you seem to get from this email. Also, for the record, everything I used in my content was public. I never had access to your Patreon, although someone did send me screenshots of some posts you made on Patreon. I received those screenshots today, and I did read them, and I saw that you said you were doxxed, but I did not dox you, so I don't know what you're referring to. I have referred to you by your name because you stated your name at the beginning of your video meeting Head the Ultimate, which is currently public on your Edwin's Generation channel, and has been public since it was uploaded in 2013. I can't believe I'm gonna have to do the good old Google search for doxing. The definition of doxing is to search for and publish private or identifying information about an individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. Wow, looks like the only thing that Google search result is missing is a picture of your face. I mean, you admit that you went through old videos of mine until you found sensitive information on me. And for what's the purpose? Nothing good. I mean, you've already wished violence against me, you've called me every phobe and ist that you could think of. And by the way, the video he's referring to is from 2007, not from 2013. I was a kid in some of the videos he's watching of me. Today I'm filming something, that's 14 years ago, and this guy continues to dox me even after this email he sent me. I believed what Dasha said because she had evidence of you fabricating evidence and claiming she was guilty of committing the crime of posting revenge porn. Meanwhile, most of the images were publicly available on Mina's Twitter account at the time at which I did that live stream. They had been publicly posted to said Twitter account by Mina in 2016, but prior to you filing the privacy complaint against my channel, you had her use the tweet deleting app to delete all tweets prior to late 2017. What is this conspiracy that I had Mina delete her tweets before 2017? What are you talking about? This is how you can tell this guy pulls conspiracy theories straight out of his ass. I mean, here's a tweet from Mina in 2016. Wow. And just what evidence did I fabricate? Dasha posted 2 nude images of Mina onto Locale. That is completely true. Now, the one thing that I said was that both of those images had never been posted before online. I was wrong about one of those images, but I corrected the record in a video last year. So where's the fabrication? I'm telling you, this dude has some dirty fascination with gaslighting people in situations he wasn't even involved in. I just don't understand, especially when Mina uploads nude images of herself to her public Twitter all the time, and has done so for as long as she has had the thing. The thing that you're not understanding is something called consent, okay? When somebody chooses to take a bunch of pictures of themselves completely in the raw or whatever, right? And shares them on their social media, that is their choice. Somebody can't just come along, look through their phone and see some that are unflattering or some that the original person didn't choose to post, take them and post them in anonymous form. That's not consensual. How can you defend that? I know you either aren't going to respond or will just respond in a way that is not conducive to an actual conversation. There's a lot of irony in that sentence. But I know that realistically, on some intellectual level, feelings aside, you understand that it's perfectly fine to do commentary, that it's perfectly fine to do more than one video or more than one live stream when there's simply so much content to cover. Sure, I have done multiple videos on certain subjects, but never as obsessive as you. I also believe you know the mischaracterization of calling me a stalker is simply dishonest. Now, I never called this guy a stalker. I don't know who did, but I'm sure somebody defending me probably did, and he used that as an excuse to continue live streaming about me. However, I did see Nick's tweet with a screenshot of Dirty's live stream in which Dirty was reading the definition of the word stalker, and with his face next to it, it all really seemed to fit quite comfortably. It's kind of unsettling, but I think he just might be a stalker. Yes, I've covered you in a lot of videos and live streams, but as I said, there's simply so much that is inappropriate or wrong there, and it truly is upsetting to see someone in the commentary sphere masquerading as this hero for the people. Meanwhile, he's been just as problematic, say, as Shane Dawson, for instance. I'm not masquerading as a hero for the people. Let me get something out of the way. Remember how I told you guys that we had a conversation and he was eventually nice to me? Well, when he was eventually nice to me, he told me that he was envious of me and my success. Now, this sounds to me like a person that saw my successful videos, you know, the ones that are on controversy and on the right side of history type of stuff, you know? And then he discovered that, oh my God, he used to do comedy videos that were slightly edgier and some of them had sexuality topics. Oh my God, I can't have that. And he was just disappointed. I guess, or I don't know, because I've never masqueraded as some hero for the people. You know, I've never worn a cape. I do what I do what I'm passionate about, and people that follow me, that's cool. If you don't like my content, you don't follow me, that's cool too. You can switch to another channel. Isn't that great? But full disclaimer, if you just subscribed, I'm no angel, okay? I say swear words, I make mistakes, I slip up. I'm not a perfect person and I never ever aim to be. But you wanna know the best part? I do aim to be better and better, and I do strongly believe that I have gotten better as a creator. I pat myself on the back for that one. I don't have any issue addressing my wrongs. I've already addressed plenty of them throughout my YouTube career. However, this motherfucker has nothing for me to address. I feel bad for swearing so much in one video, but I've literally never been harassed so much by one person on the internet like this. Dirty, you're 29 years old and you live at your mom's house with no job, you chain smoke and live stream hatefully about me or other people, always hatefully, always negative stuff to say. Seriously, get a life, go get a job, go touch grass. Whatever you do, just leave me alone. Let's see, what other things have sucked while I was away from social media? I was diagnosed with asthma, so I gotta use this and sometimes this. Living alone has been extremely lonely and has likely added a teaspoon to the concoction of depression. John Swan, what the hell, man? A whole ass audiobook? Defending a whole ass lie? What the hell? And Creepshow Art, honestly, that one kind of still stings a little bit. I might need to do like a whole video or maybe a live stream discussing it. Wait, did I say live stream? We'll see. Maybe I can get back into live streaming. But honestly, it's like a heavy one because, I don't know, she was like always super cool with me, and I'll save it for later. And last but not least, I have not seen Mina since December of 2019. Oh God. Hopefully that changes. We have plans to see each other real soon. There has been a huge mental aversion to the idea of being on YouTube, which is super upsetting because, you know, YouTube is what I loved. What I love? I avoided using social media as it brought me a great deal of anxiety as things just kept occurring and occurring and occurring. You know, I couldn't catch a break even without being on social media, and you know, I took the break because of the anxiety that I was receiving while being on social media. So it's like, why would I want to be back on? I went from thinking I was going to take just a 2-week break to avoiding the idea of even coming back. In fact, I forgot to reactivate my Twitter, and now it's gone forever. Because apparently, if you don't reactivate your Twitter within 30 days, it's zapped. So I no longer have that Twitter that I had since 2008, which is interesting because I don't feel sad or upset about it. I mean, it is kind of a bummer because, you know, obviously I made a lot of great connections and all that stuff, but it just overall, I think at least towards the last leg of me having that Twitter, it was just more negativity for my mind. There was one thing that I occupied my time with while not being on social media, and that was crypto. I was super fascinated with it, and everything was going amazing, honestly, until, you know, Elon Musk and the market crashed. Yeah, that was a bummer. I mean, at least I'm still above my initial investment, but it's not the same vibe when you don't feel as bullish. It also sucks because it occurred during the time that I had to file and pay for taxes. So I'm like, oh my god, I have to sell my crypto at a loss. But honestly, all of that happening at once kind of made me realize that I was using crypto as an escape. You know, I was kind of just avoiding YouTube and social media. When honestly, let's be real, this is my true love, okay? I can't be gone for too long, and I gotta face the demons. These motherfuckers, they ain't got shit on me. So hey, what's up? I'm here to stay, alright? Yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer video, but you know what? Let's try to do that. So let's try to do that live stream. I'm not even gonna edit out that stutter. I think I had a more few sad things written here on my script, but fuck that shit, guys. Let's end this on a high note, alright, guys? Seriously, if you're here for me, if you're here to continue on the journey, give it a thumbs up. You made it this far, huh? Honestly, for real, guys, I'm grateful for the support. And if you're still trying to cancel me, like John Swan once said, I'm uncancelable. JK, man, that's fucking cringe.